Hello everyone, Edain here, and welcome back to the Edain mod battle school, where today we're going to talk about cavalry and monsters, because it's something I kind of wanted to was one of the main things that made me want to start this was talking about how trampling works, because yes, it's very simple if you understand the base concepts of it mathematically, but in a basic game concept, it's guy tramples other guy takes damage. First guy takes a little bit of damage depending on how hard he's charging and how much he's charging. But there is a lot of actual math behind how this works. So for example, I have this unit of Rohirrim, who every single entity has 330 health, and I'm going to have them trample this unit of Gondor soldiers, which each have 255 health. I have a bunch of other units back here as well, which I will be using soon, but I was going to keep them away just so I can prove a point here. So first things first is going to be reverse converting these soldiers of Gondor so I can charge them with these Rohirrim. So then, with one trample, we don't quite kill them on the trample, and we lose a lot of momentum as we trampled. So I'm going to try and get back out again and trample them again to get the kill on some of them. Now I'm not stopping, I'm just going off the charge itself. So one charge deals half the health, well, most of the health of a single Gondor soldier. I'm trying to get the tramp out to kill him. I did what I wanted to prove. We got all the evidence I needed to talk about the Rohirrim themselves. So, at base, you notice their trample wasn't very good. It wasn't very strong. But then you might be thinking, but I get trampled by them all the time and they kill everything constantly. Well, obviously, one factor about them is their health. The other factor is how much damage they take from a trample, which is another statistic that every single unit has in their armor values, which you can read on in the Edain fandom wiki. But also, the amount of damage they deal in their trample is separate to the damage they deal in their attacks, because they have their own individual stats. There's the cavalry damage, which is the statistic of their swinging their spear or sword or whatever they're wielding at your opponent. But then there's the damage their horse actually does, the trample damage. And that then gets multiplied by the percentage of damage that a unit takes from trample. So if we go on those soldiers, they was pretty much they lost about 140 health, I would say. And the trample of Rohirrim is normally around 70. So they take twice as much damage, say. This is all just in my head, just trying to explain everything. So their trample wasn't the best, but it was strong, in the fact that it only took 2 tramples to kill something. Now, I have these Rohirrim archers, which, yes, they are cavalry. Yes, they do deal damage when trampling, but they're meant to be used as an archer unit that does damage to, things from range. So when they trample, their trample is actually really bad, is actually worse than the Rohirrim. They also have less health to show that in their trample they're taking way more damage and should not be trampling in the first place. So again, let's make sure they're out of range. Reverse converts, and then I'm going to again show what these cavalry can do in their charge, because again, in theory and in practice, the trample is the same, but the damage the cavalry took was way worse. The actual damage they took is called the revenge damage of the entity. And as I said already, every single entity that can get trampled has a revenge damage stat. So, for example, a pikeman unit, say from Gundabad pikemen, their revenge damage is insane, like all pikeman units. Basic swordsman units have a pretty good revenge damage, but archer units, that's where the kicker is. Archers have next to no revenge damage. The only exceptions to ranged revenge damage is the yeoman spear throwers of Rohan and the Ered Mithrin spear throwers of the Iron Hills, which you get from the Ered Mithrin Bastion, their outpost. So, and also, these guys just have less health and as a response, take more damage from a charge, and then the attacks that come from the actual soldiers themselves, which is why you can see just from one charge, they're way weaker now than the Rohirrim were. They lost at least twice as many entities, and half of those entities are on 1 health each, while these are still pretty full health after 2 tramples and then a close melee. So I'm going to quickly Control-Alt-Delete those Gondor soldiers so we can show off the Rivendell cavalry. Because, yes, this is a much more elite cavalry unit, even with no upgrades. Their trample should likely kill those Gondor soldiers instantly. But again, just instead of just saying it's going to kill them instantly and not backing up with any evidence, I'm now trying to, in these Battle School videos, show actual evidence of them killing them. It's better than trying to make shorts of it anyway, which is what was my other idea. So, Enlarged Cavalry coming in, their charge killed them instantly. They took less deceleration as well, which is purely because of the fact they killed the entities. And then the last 3 are gone. And they took no casualties. They got the same amount of experience as the Rohirrim. Obviously, you can see the difference in experience. That's a different video for a different time. But anyway, because their trample is way stronger, this means they do more damage. The units died, so they didn't decelerate. That's the one thing about charging. You always will decelerate if there are now entities blocking your path. But if the entities die, you don't decelerate as badly. There's also abilities like Ride Them Down, which increases the movement speed and slows trample deceleration, which I will now show. I built a lot of Gondor soldiers in preparation for this video. And I have 2 left, which I'm going to use for the monster tramples, because they are also important to understand. Yeah, the Enlarged Cav now are going to, once again, show their prowess, but this time, they're going to do it with their ability, so we see even less deceleration from the cavalry. In fact, there should be next to no deceleration at all, because we're just going to go right through them. Like a knife through hot butter, we get a slight deceleration when they're about to actually impact, but then after that, you can just trample constantly. No deceleration. If there were several units at once, it could have been more. And I was thinking of doing that, but I've already run out of Gondor soldiers. I don't want to waste time getting more. So, yes, cavalry charges will always depend upon the unit's base speed, their trample, and then the enemy's resistances to that trample, and their revenge damage will decide whether or not the unit of cavalry will live or die. And as you can see, even though they did not swing their swords once at us, we did take damage, because that's how revenge damage works. And the entity that took the most damage is the one in the middle, because he is the one who went through the most entities, which is again a kind of a given. But then we come to monsters. I'm going to use these guys later. Monsters also have trample, and they also have revenge damage taken from trampling. So let's get another unit of Gondor soldiers up to the front. We'll get the other one to move up to the future. But monsters are only a single entity, and instead of having 5 800 health bar pools, we have only one 4,480 health pool. And obviously, it's the only entity doing all the trampling, so you can more accurately see how much damage is being taken overall from trampling this entire unit of Gondor soldiers. So, let's begin. The reverse convert, and then trample in. And you should also see a trample deceleration on this unit as well. Though it's not as easy to see because of how easily they do trample, but yeah, you can see there. Their trample is not as strong as the cavalry we've already seen, because monsters aren't actually known for their trample damage. They just the fact they can trample. Now look at that. One entire unit dead. And I would say that is about 1,900, nearly 2,000 health taken away in that charge. So he charged every single entity twice. Every single entity has 15, so that's 30 times he trampled. 30 times he was hit back by revenge damage. And he took the amount of damage that was accruing from that build-up. He might have got his hitbox swung at a few times by the stray Gondor soldier. But because of his speed, he was able to constantly move around. I'm just going to move Gandalf a bit because the light does not like being so bright. But now we've got a troll, who I have given armor, so I want to actually see if he can survive charging through an entire unit. So let's get the Gondor soldiers up. And however, another thing about the fact that this guy's now got armor is the fact his armor class has changed. So the base version, you can see, has 3,600 health. This has 6,600 health, so he has more health in general, but also has some slightly altered damage types that he will get damaged by. So reverse convert, and let's see how much damage the troll takes compared to the werewolf. In theory, they should take the same amount of damage if the same amount of times they were trampled and hit. But the troll's trample is actually weaker than the werewolf's trample, so we're going to trample 3 times. I'd say with that, that's 500 damage taken. Trampling again. That took next to no damage because none of them actually swung at him during that moment. There's a few swings in there. We're still trampling everything. Most things are now down to 1 health. Okay. We've taken about 2,000 damage now, which is the same amount as the werewolf. But we took all that damage in the course of 4 tramples instead of 2. So what does that mean? We took, I would say that's 3,000 damage actually. So 3,000 damage against the 2,000 damage taken from the werewolf. Why are all these different things happening? Again, it comes to the fact that there are different armor values for everything. This troll charged so much, and his damage resistances was so good against the slash damage, it's hard to tell he actually took any damage from the swordsman attacking him. It's only really from the damage he took from trampling those Gondor soldiers that actually has any impact here. So he took about, again, let's say that was roughly 3,000 damage. So that 3,000 damage over 4 tramples against 30 entities, that's 120, not 30 entities, 15 entities. So that's a total of 60 times he made impact and took revenge damage. So that would mean he took 100 damage per charge, is basically what that means. He took 100 damage per charge, while this guy trampled 30 times and took 2,000 damage. That means he took less damage per charge. That is basically what that means. And yes, that does happen. Units can take less damage from revenge damage from the same entity because it does have different armor values. As is now plainly obvious. You can see here, these entities took way more damage from revenge damage. Not because they're just weak, but also because they just don't know how to take the damage very well. And even though it's not actually, I'm not 100% sure on this, I've never actually looked it up, but I think revenge damage is based on the damage type of the unit that you're trampling. So to put it into clear perspective, a unit with slash damage will deal more damage to an entity that has more slash damage taken per hit. So for example, the Rohirrim archers take more damage to slash damage than their basic cavalry counterparts. And so that's why they took more damage in revenge. And that is why specialist damage types, the pikemen for example, who do major damage to cavalry, their revenge damage is a lot higher and does way more damage. And that is why you're incentivized to not charge pikemen with any monster that can trample. These aren't the only monsters obviously that can trample. There's also the snow trolls of Angmar, if you get the one ring to the Witch King, but I can't show everything off all at once. I try to show off as much as I can. Then we have also our own units that get upgrades, then have higher resistances, and so they take even less damage, because heavy armor does give you not only more health, but also changes some damage type resistances. Because it needs to basically say, this is now stronger against other damage types, but it's weaker against other damage types that are meant to do more damage to units with armor. So trampling everything all the time is not always the best thing to do if you want to do the mapper on it, which obviously is what I've done here. This troll took less damage because he had armor. If this troll was to trample the swordsman at the same, well, exactly the same as this troll I think could actually die. It wouldn't actually be able to kill the entire Gondor soldier troop, similar to what happened with these archers, because it doesn't have as many resistances as the other troll with armor. Now then, we have One unit that isn't the same as all the others, we have Khandoum Swordsman, which would probably still die to a charge from the enlarged Cav. Would probably not die in like 3 charges to a Rohirrim. I'm going to give this guy full upgrades as well. I'm going to test it against the Warg Riders. They are currently fully upgraded with Blood Wargs, which means they just get regen per hit, but we're not doing them on hits. They have 600 health each. These Khandoum Swordsmen currently have only 500 health. That is now changed to 900 health with heavy armor. And we're now going to convert them, and we're going to test how much damage they can sustain from a fully upgraded Warg Rider unit. First charge, I'm not going to use Howl. Second charge, I will use Howl and see the difference. We'll see the difference in that damage. So first trample is about half health. There's about half health on every entity that took the full brunt of the charge. But our entities took pretty much the same amount of damage too, the ones that actually did the full charge and actually got hit a bit. But now, let's use the Howl and go back in again. Will we kill the entities that took nearly half health damage, or will they survive? They actually took less damage, which might be a result of something else. Actually, no, tell a lie. You can tell that some of them took more and some of them took less damage. Let's use the Clairvoyant Stone so we can see the remaining Men of Khandoum. Some of those took 2 full charges. Some of them only took 1 charge and a half, roughly. That's why there's different health remaining on each of them. Because some of them took a full charge, and then some of them took a decelerated charge. And look at these Wargs. They are... You can see some of them took a lot of damage in each of those charges. I probably should have done this with and without upgrades, but you know, I can't show off everything. I just want to show off as much as I can. So you can see the Wargs took a substantial amount of damage. I'd say about as much as the Rohirrim did against the Gondor soldiers. And that's with a complete... Well, one thing, different unit type, way more damage, way more armor, way more health than the Gondor soldiers. And are also just a higher class. They are a smaller entity in general, but against a different kind of charge as well. The Warg Rider charge is actually slower than the basic Rohirrim charge. Let's actually put this to the test, because I just want to show this before in the past. Is both these guys charging at once? Who's faster? Well, since they didn't really show a good charge, you can see the Rohirrim have a much smoother turn. The Warg Riders don't. Yeah, let's now have the Rohirrim, no upgrades, charge the Khandoum Swordsman. And see how much damage they take from this charge. We're not worrying about if they live or die, so I think they will die. Yeah, they're all dead. We lost one Rohirrim in that charge that had about no health left anyway. But other than that, some of them took a lot more damage than what they did from the Gondor charge. And obviously, if I charged with these Rohirrim, they would have actually died. But last thing I want to show is, again, specialist damage. So, this is a Yeoman Spear Thrower unit. A classified specialist damage type. So they will be doing big damage to us. And let's hope they don't use their ability quickly. So I'm actually going to use the Rivendell Lancers that have the fastest speed among our troops. I'm going to have these facing backwards so they don't shoot immediately. I'm going to reverse convert. And then charge in with the Rohirrim Lancers, see how much damage they do. And if they actually survive. So we look at their health. The Lancers still died, but they took out the Rohirrim with them. Let's get rid of them. So, as you can see, the Rohirrim Spear Throwers died because 1, they have low health, 2, they take a lot of trample damage, and 3, they didn't have any real protection on them. But they took out 3 of the Enlargerous Lancers who took next to no damage from Gondor soldiers. And that is because of the specialist damage they deal at base and with revenge damage. That just confirmed it. That has confirmed that even though it's an archer unit and died, it can still deal more damage back because of the damage type it has and the revenge damage it can deal. The highest revenge damage type in the game, I believe, is Enlargerous Rivendell Pikemen. They can kill nearly anything in 1 trample. Not one time of them getting trampled, they can kill anything. And yeah, that just shows that, again, specialist damage can do a lot of damage to a cavalry unit. But if the unit is also not a tanky unit, like an ordinary pikeman unit, it can die so quickly. And it's important to keep that in note. Just because it's a ranged unit doesn't mean it has no protection from charges. But that's one of the only cases you actually see that has a protection against a charge. Another case would be the Killith Ungol Halberdiers. They are a mix of sword and spear units because their damage types are split. But that would also mean they would do slash and specialist damage back in revenge. Still killing off any cavalry unit that dared touch them. But it wouldn't be as bad as, say, a full specialist revenge charge on them. Which is important to know, I guess, if you wanted to do the full math on that. So that is pretty much everything I want to talk about in this video. Very well displayed, I want to say. I hope. I hope this has been educational, showing you all the different damage variables for charges from cavalry and monsters. And the important thing to know, that cavalry charges are stronger than monster charges. In most cases. The werewolf did beat the Rohirrim archers, but again, no horse archer unit is meant to charge. They are meant to just shoot from far away. They're just meant to be fast. And Rohirrim have a better charging animation than the Warg Riders because Warg's animations are weird. Let's just put it that way. Their animations are weird. And monster tramples don't really slow down as anywhere near as much as base cavalry deceleration, which is always something to keep in the back of your head. If you're trampling something, can you keep the trample going? And if you can't, is it worth trampling? Hope you've all learned something, and I will see you all in the next one. Farewell.